A woman in the city of Strasbourg walked into the street and started dancing. She didn't stop. 6 days later, she was still dancing. By then, dozens of other people had joined her. Within a month, around 400 people were dancing in the streets of Strasbourg, day and night. They couldn't stop. Some of them danced for a week straight. Around 15 people a day were dying, some from heart attacks, some from strokes, and some from pure exhaustion. This was a real public health event called the Dancing Plague of 1518, and we still don't know what caused it. Strasbourg in the summer of 1518 was not a happy place. The city sat on the Rhine River, which, at the time, was part of the Holy Roman Empire. About 20,000 people lived there. It was a working city for tradesmen, craftsmen, and merchants. But the previous 5 years had been brutal. A series of famines had hit the region. Late frosts killed the spring crops, and food prices tripled. The poorest families were forced to eat tree bark. A new disease called syphilis had recently arrived in Europe and was killing people in horrible ways. Smallpox was endemic. Leprosy still existed. Childbirth killed a significant percentage of women. The Catholic Church was at the height of its power. People genuinely believed in saints, curses, and demonic possession. They believed God was angry. Most of them had good reason to think so. There was also something else happening in the background. Just 9 months before the Dancing Plague, a German monk named Martin Luther had nailed his 95 Theses to a church door in Wittenberg, openly attacking the Catholic Church. The news had spread across the Holy Roman Empire. Religious certainty was fracturing. People were starting to question whether the church could even protect them anymore. This was a city living under sustained stress, sleep-deprived, hungry, anxious, and surrounded by what felt like a constant stream of bad news. Their religion was unstable. Their food supply was unstable. Their health was unstable. Then a woman started dancing. Her name was Frau Troffea. She lived in Strasbourg. On a day sometime in mid-July 1518, she walked into a narrow street in the city and started dancing. It wasn't a celebration. It wasn't religious. She was just dancing alone in silence with no music. Her husband reportedly saw her and begged her to stop. She kept dancing. She danced through the rest of the day. She danced through the night. She danced through the next day. She danced through the next night. For 4 to 6 days, Frau Troffea danced continuously in the streets of Strasbourg. Witnesses described her face as exhausted. Her feet were bleeding through her shoes. She didn't speak. She didn't stop. By day 4, other people had started joining her. This is where the story gets genuinely strange. Within a week of Frau Troffea collapsing, 34 people in Strasbourg had also started dancing uncontrollably. Within a month, the number was around 400. These weren't celebrations. These weren't performances. The witnesses, doctors, and church officials who wrote about it all described the same thing: people dancing against their will, faces blank or exhausted, limbs moving as if controlled by someone else. Some of them screamed in pain while their feet kept moving. People danced for days at a time. They didn't sleep. They didn't eat properly. City records describe deaths beginning within days of the spread. Estimates vary, but historians believe around 15 people a day were dying. The city council had to act. They consulted physicians who had a theory. They believed the dancing was caused by hot blood, too much heat in the body. The theory came from a medical framework called humoral theory, which had dominated European medicine since the ancient Greeks. The idea was that the body contained 4 fluids: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile, and that all illness came from these being out of balance. According to this theory, the dancers had too much hot, dry blood. The treatment, in the physician's view, was to let the heat out, which meant the dancers needed to keep dancing until the heat ran out. So the city of Strasbourg made a decision that would later become famous in medical history. They prescribed more dancing. They built wooden stages in the marketplace and the grain market. They hired professional musicians to play day and night. They paid for professional dancers to come in and dance alongside the afflicted, hoping it would help them complete the cycle. It did not. The treatment instead drew larger crowds, which made more people join in. By August, the dancing had spread to neighboring villages. People were collapsing in church squares. The stages built to cure the plague had become the centers where it was spreading fastest. The physicians, when confronted with the failure, did not abandon their theory. They simply concluded that the dancers were too far gone for normal treatment. Some of them suggested the dancers were possessed. Some suggested the city itself had angered God. The medical establishment of the time had no framework for understanding what was actually happening. This continued for weeks. Estimates of total deaths over the 2-month event range from 40 to 400 people. The truth is, nobody counted carefully. By late August, city officials were panicking. The medical theory had failed. The musicians had been sent home. The stages had been dismantled. They turned to the church. The city council and church leaders decided that the dancers needed to be taken to a shrine, specifically to the shrine of St. Vitus, in a mountain a few miles away. St. Vitus was a 3rd century Christian martyr. For reasons mostly lost to history, he was the patron saint of dancers. He was also, in medieval folklore, the saint who was believed to cause involuntary dancing as a curse on people who offended him. Survivors of the plague were marched up to the shrine. They were given red shoes. They were given small crosses to hold. Their feet were sprinkled with holy water. They were instructed to pray. According to records, this somehow worked. The dancing stopped. Whether it was the religious ritual, the simple exhaustion of finally being separated from the music and crowds, or the natural fading of a mass psychological event, we don't know. But by early September, the dancing plague of 1518 was over. The musicians went back to playing weddings. The stages were burned for firewood. The survivors went home, many of them permanently affected by what they'd experienced. Some never danced again for the rest of their lives. Frau Troffea, the woman who started it, is never mentioned in records again. She may have died. She may have recovered and lived a quiet life. Nobody followed up. What actually caused it? No one knows for sure. One theory is ergot poisoning a fungus on rye that can cause hallucinations. But ergot also causes severe convulsions and weakness, making days of coordinated dancing unlikely. The leading explanation is mass psychogenic illness. Strasbourg was suffering from famine, disease, and intense religious fear, under extreme stress. One public breakdown may have triggered others to unconsciously mirror it. Similar outbreaks of laughter, fainting, and twitching have been documented even in modern times. Another theory points to religious trance. Many people believed in St. Vitus and the curse of involuntary dancing. If they expected to dance, those beliefs may have pushed them into altered states until they collapsed. Whatever the cause, Strasbourg wasn't unique. Similar dancing outbreaks occurred across medieval Europe and were later grouped under the term choreomania. Modern cases suggest the underlying conditions still exist: stress, fear, social pressure, and the powerful tendency of humans to imitate one another. In 1518, Strasbourg had all of those conditions at once, and the result was hundreds of people dancing themselves to death. The dancing plague of 1518 is one of history's strangest mysteries. We know it happened. City records, physician reports, and church accounts all confirm it. Yet no explanation fully fits. What we do know is that hundreds of people danced until they collapsed from exhaustion, injury, or worse. The authorities responded by giving them more music and larger stages, a decision that only fueled the outbreak. It's a reminder that under enough hunger, fear, isolation, and belief, the human mind can produce behaviors that seem impossible. In 1518, an entire city tried to dance the plague away. It didn't work, but the music kept playing. If you enjoyed the video, you might like this one. And comment down below if you would have survived the dancing plague.